I really do feel like I'm starting from sort of square one with an advantage, if that makes sense. But I mean, I did pretty much like demolish my freelance career. Like I have no
Hmm.
contacts from people I worked with before and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. I feel if, like I said, it's some like weird idea of like, especially with social media, you get this idea that you're supposed to be on this straight path to success.
Yeah.
And it seems like people just figured out what they do and then they did it over and over again and then got really popular and really successful doing that. And it
Yeah.
hasn't been like that at all for me.
So
Okay, you want to try this again?
yeah. So
Do it.
Sam Carr, thank you for this interview. I know that you are kind of short on time. You were on vacation not long ago, but yeah, you're. I've seen
Yeah.
you that you kind of started with some art station stuff, right? Like selling some
Yeah, been doing that recently. Or I've been trying to do
videos.
everything recently.
Has that
Um,
been keeping you busy?
uh, yeah, I don't know. I've kind of been like throwing everything at the wall at the
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
Because I basically started freelancing again back in April after working in studio for like 4 years or something. So I'm in sort of
Wow.
like
No, nice.
a bit chaos right now, just trying to do a bit of everything to try and
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
see what works. And now it's starting to slowly work. But yeah, yeah, the ArtStation stuff is really fun. Just trying to get into like tutorials and things like that.
Yeah, yeah. Try to get
Uh,
because it's really good for a passive income. It's kind of like Gumroad a little bit,
yeah,
right?
that's
Yeah.
kind of what I've been like. The goal is to have some passive income, so
Yeah.
it's not like life or death month to
I
month.
know. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
I've been trying to do the same, but goddamn, it's just like
yeah, it's a lot of work
it's a
on
lot of
top of
work. Yeah.
the life and death every month. So, yeah.
Are you living in Sweden right now?
Yes, so I think I've been here almost like 10 years now. So, yeah, I moved here and never left. So, but it's nice here. But it's very expensive as well. So
Oh, I bet.
I have to work a lot.
At least you got good healthcare, right?
Yeah, exactly. It is worth it.
Yeah.
But it is very expensive. Yeah.
I suppose we could start out pretty much with the basic usual
Mm.
question of, how did you get started when you were a kid? Can you remember anything that got you into art maybe before conceptart.org? Like,
Yeah.
were you drawing? Did you have any influences or anything like that?
Yeah, I think I was always drawing and I don't know, like the usual like kid stuff, I guess. But I think honestly, I think the earliest thing I remember at least was like Dragon Ball Z. Like being in like super young, I just have like felt colored felt tips, and I would just fill like these little I don't know, I call it a sketchbook, but it wasn't really like a school book that you draw in or whatever for like drawing time, and they were just full of like ripped dudes with big blonde hair,
Yeah.
like firing energy balls at each other, super bad. But uh, yeah, and then I think as I got a little older, to like 12, kind of whatever, I think then I got pretty influenced by anime, as most people
Yeah.
uh, did in the 2000s. And then I think that was I like anime and comics. I think I like a lot of kids stopped drawing, and I definitely kept going. And yeah, like I think at some point around then I was more like started copying from stuff like anime or comics. Like I wanted to draw like that, and I guess sort of got some sense of wanting to be good for the first time, I guess, rather than it just being fun, which is kind of sad in hindsight.
You start
But yeah, and then
freelancing
I
right
mean,
away.
yeah, exactly. Or I mean, just the idea of like, um, I guess you emulate what you like, but yeah, for quite a long period of time, my work just looked like kind of crappy manga stuff. So, uh, yeah, and then I that sort of takes it to concept.org, I guess, because I think I was like
Yeah.
14 and
At
um,
14.
yeah, so I lived in a small town in the UK, and a friend of mine was like, "Oh, I have a friend and he draws. You two should hang out." So then we did that, and that was Miles Johnston, and
That's awesome.
yeah, and then I started hanging out with him, and we would just meet up and sketch. I would just cycle to his house, just like 10 minutes away, and so he was posting stuff on concept.org, and I started looking at that, and then I think that was like that something clicked there with me because I was doing stuff like I was buying like uh these like how to draw books and like going through all of them and copying stuff from them, like how to draw comics, how to
Yeah.
draw manga. I don't know if you remember those.
Yeah.
Uh,
I had a couple of
and
those.
it didn't help really, and it was frustrating. And in hindsight, like it's because they weren't very good. But then when I saw like the sketchbooks on concept.org and also like the level of art that was actually possible, I was pretty blown away and really wanted to do that. So I posted a bunch of really, really bad drawings, and I was pretty um, excited about the idea of just drawing a lot, um, and finally feeling like I had some focus on that. And I mean, I played drums for a few years up until that point, and I think by that, from that, I'd really already had the lesson of like, if you do 5 minutes every day of the week, it's better than drawing for like 2 hours on Monday and then not bothering for like
Yeah.
the next week and a bit. So that whole like work hard little and often thing
Mm.
resonated with me a lot. So I was pretty committed to the idea of just trying to draw a little bit every day after school and collect them and post them. And yeah, I really liked that. Um, and then yeah, I don't know. I guess I just kind of did that for a few years,
Yeah.
like uh, until like 16 in the UK. You kind of have to decide what you're gonna do with your life, which is
Yeah.
kind of crazy when you think about it.
Scary.
So you're getting asked by everyone, like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? And it was like a sixth form college near me. Um,
Yeah.
and that's, I guess, for people internationally, you choose what, like five subjects or three? I don't know. But you study a bunch of subjects and then that prepares you to go to university.
Mm. Okay.
And in my infinite wisdom at 16, I decided I wasn't going to do that and I was going to go to like a technical college, and that's more where people learn like to be an electrician or like becoming like a engineer, or maybe not that, but like yeah, it was really more like it was very looked down on in my town. It was like the
Oh,
nice
really?
place and the bad place almost, and it was kind of like a bit rough, I guess. And uh, I basically they had an art course, and for some reason I was just like I already know that I don't want to do any other subjects anymore. I just want to draw. Uh, which I don't know. In hindsight, I'm like, I don't know if that was the smartest thing, but so and everyone was like, okay, you sure? And all this stuff, and I was like, yeah, this is what I want. Like I know you can make money off art because I'm on concept art and
There's
I
somebody
don't need
making money
anything
out of
else. And
me right
I was
now.
just like, I was like all in and ignored everyone who said that like artists are quite poor and like work a
Yeah.
lot. So then, yeah, I guess I did that for like a year, and like right away I knew it was a bad choice because it was like um we didn't really do any drawing, which kind of sucked. It was like, oh, we're doing self-portrait project now, and you make a
Hmm.
collage about how you feel or
Oh,
whatever, and
it was kind of like
like this
general
art
art.
course. Yeah. It was, yeah, it was very general art
Oh,
and was
okay.
supposed to prepare you for like art university. And the more I talked to the people in my class, the more I realized like no one there was that into, like it was a couple people I guess, but mostly it was like I'm here because I didn't get good grades. Why are
Yeah.
you here? Kind of
Yeah.
thing. And I was like, why am I here? And but my teacher was legitimately nice, and I think she recognized that I was very serious about it. So yeah, I think around that time Dave Raposa started doing like Crimson Daggers stuff.
Yeah.
Where he would basically stream and he was painting the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And it was uh so that he was basically streaming like every day or something.
Hmm.
And there was lots of artists who joined, and it was just very hype, I guess. So it was like a
Yeah.
really cool time. Uh,
Yeah.
of like, oh shit, you can like be really serious about this and get better like way faster. So I got really into that, and because of that, uh, I mean, I would get home at like 4 from that school, and then I'd be like, okay, that was nice. Now I'm gonna start drawing for real. And then I would stay up till like 2 or 3 a.m.
Yeah.
and then wake up early, and I was just like falling asleep. It was
Jesus.
so unsustainable. Um, but I think I'd had some experience where I was like with some friends, and it's like the town I was from was kind of depressing, I guess, and there was kind of a thing of like that people don't really leave. Um, and it's like we were 17 and we're for some reason there was like this guy who was like 30 plus who was hanging out with us, and it I think we were there one time and it just suddenly hit me how like, all right, if I don't do anything, I'm gonna be him, and that for some reason
Jesus.
scared the shit out of me.
Wow.
So I think I got really motivated of like I need to do something and get out of this town and not come back. So yeah, I think eventually it wasn't very sustainable doing that. So I don't know. I think I talked to my mom or something, and I was like, I think I don't want to do the school,
Hmm.
and I think I really have a chance at like uh doing this professionally if I have the time to do it properly.
Yeah.
And she
How'd
was
she
just
take
kind of
it?
like, she was weirdly like, I can't tell you that you should drop out, only you can make that choice kind of thing. Of
Mm.
like, I don't know, it was kind of
It was kind of like Neo and
yeah,
Morpheus at the Matrix. The Matrix.
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it was sort of like she basically just gave me the idea of like that it is my life and that I can't like ask other people if I should make this choice because it's ultimately up to me. So I decided to do that. And honestly, when I told my teacher at the school, she seemed very unsurprised and actually like encouraging,
Yeah.
because I think she saw that I wasn't doing really thriving with it. So it kind of happened pretty quickly, and then all of a sudden, I sort of had an agreement with my parents of like that if I would try it for a year, and then I would by the end of that, I would be like earning money from art. Um, And if not, it was kind of like then you need to go back to school and
Hmm.
then try and get grades so that you can go to university. So
Yeah.
it was like pretty fresh in my mind that like if I didn't do it, I was kind of
You'll be
gonna
back
be
at
a,
it.
yeah, but also I would be like a year behind everyone else. Like it would be
Right.
so depressing
Hmm.
to have to go backwards like that. So um and honestly, at that point, I didn't really feel like anyone thought I would be able to do it, but they were just indulging me, kind of thing. Uh, but I took it very seriously, and um, I had a plan of like the first 6 months I would study a lot,
Hmm.
um, to try and get better, and then the last 6 months I would really fire up trying to like make a portfolio and find work. Uh, and I was doing like dumb stuff, just like barely sleeping still because I don't know, when you're 17, 18, you do that, I guess. Uh, which I don't know, was very into like the all-nighter thing,
Yeah.
which I don't think it even helps anymore. Like my mom would be like, you should just go to bed and then work on it early in the morning. I'd be like, oh, you don't get it. Like, which now I'm just like, what the hell? Um, uh, but yeah, so I mean, I pretty much did that. I worked really hard. And I enjoyed it a lot. And then I think like near the end of that year, I got like Dungeons and Dragons like magazine. They do, oh, not magazine, but they did like
Yeah.
these publications of like quests or whatever.
Yeah.
Which at that point in time, I was like, I've made it.
Yeah.
Like,
Man, I still can't get
which
into Dungeons
I
and
don't,
Dragons.
yeah,
Like that's hard.
yeah. But I mean, I don't think it's even much of a thing anymore until, or I don't know. Maybe it is now with, but I mean, at that point, it was like 5e hadn't been released, so I felt like people had kind of forgot about it in terms of compared to Magic the Gathering, I guess.
Mm.
Right.
Um, but I mean, I wasn't really earning much money at all, but
Was that your first
uh
job?
no,
Like freelance?
I was working for like doing like private commissions for like really creepy people before that.
The
Working at
kangaroo
Of like,
Gaylord?
stuff?
yeah, actually, I love how infamous that is with anyone who knows it.
Yeah.
Which one?
Yeah, so there's a guy who um hired, or maybe still he does. He hires like very beginner artists who are getting into freelance, and at first it seems totally normal. He's like, I can pay you immediately on PayPal, like really good rate. And I was like, whoa, okay, so what do I have to do? And then he just sends you like the creepiest thing. It was like this half woman, half kangaroo. Uh,
Okay.
like her torso is a woman, and then she has like a kangaroo lower body, and it was just like so disturbing. And then it was like paintings of her being like transformed into that and stuff. And like every time he would come back, I would be like, I don't want to do it. And then I would just be like, but God damn, the money's so good. So I don't know. There's so much stuff like that, whereas just like really small things of people you never hear from again. When you're starting out like that, you actually weirdly get a lot of freelance stuff for very small things
Yeah.
that I don't think I ever get offers for that anymore.
No.
So I was working a lot. I wasn't really earning much, but I think at that point in time, it almost meant more than getting paid, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I
Like
bet that you
just
could showcase that. It's like, hey, look, like this is
yeah,
actually
like
I'm earning money. Like,
yeah, and I think that's the thing with like a lot of people more at the beginning of their art career. There's like a certain surprise that people are actually even paying you for it, and I think
yeah,
you ride off that for a long time, where
yeah,
it's a bigger deal that you got work than it is that you're not
that you're getting paid.
really
Yeah,
earning any money.
yeah.
Um, but I would say D&D is the one I remember anyway. Is like, oh wow, now I'm legit.
How
I
many
don't have to
images do
paint
you do for that?
creepy stuff. Um,
I remember one. I remember the draw
I think I did
portrait.
maybe like I think that was actually to try and get that though.
Really? It
I
was a
was like
test?
very much targeting them as like
Oh, okay.
trying to be like, oh, I paint this stuff. But I think I maybe did like 12 pictures overall for them over like uh 1 or 2 years. I didn't
Nice.
really post any of them because they weren't that good. Um, and then I don't know. And then I don't know if you guys remember this company called Applebot came out of nowhere.
Oh
This
yeah.
Oh
like
yeah.
Chinese company, and they had a game called Legend of the Cryptids,
Mm.
and they basically like messed up the whole game of art freelance because it was like they paid like over double what Magic the Gathering paid, and
Yeah.
it seemed like they would basically hire anybody. And
Yeah.
so I just somehow got onto that train, and then pretty much just by asking friends to be like, just recommend me. I
Yeah.
can't do anything. And then they would like accept it, and I think then I was like, okay, now I'm actually earning
Good money.
good
Yeah.
money finally. But the work was kind of horrible, to be honest. Like the briefs felt like a haiku or something. It was
Yeah.
so vague, and they were like very passive aggressive when they emailed you in terms of like you really felt like you'd done something wrong. I don't know,
Really?
but I rode that wave for a while, and then I mean Miles had moved here to Sweden to study at the atelier here at this point, so I was in my hometown still,
Hmm.
uh, and I was like, oh, I'm actually like probably earning enough to live by myself now. And I'd visited a bunch of times, like become friends with students at the school and stuff as well. So I was like, I think I was like live streaming or something, and I just said like, "Oh, I don't suppose someone has somewhere I can live in Stockholm." And then someone was just like, "I'll message you," and I was like, and I
Joke's
got
on you.
like, I got like a room here for like £200 a month or something, which is insane for Stockholm. It was a very small room, but yeah, so I managed to move here, and that was pretty cool. But I was um so I was doing like the cryptid stuff, and then hanging out at this atelier a lot, and doing like their life drawing, and they would have like portrait evenings and stuff. So I think that was kind of seeing what they did there. I was quite surprised, or it felt like a new level had been unlocked in terms of what I
Yeah.
thought good was, I suppose, because seeing how much Miles improved,
Oh
it
yeah.
felt like if when I would paint with him, all of a sudden it was like if he had a reference, he could paint it pretty much because you learn to copy so well
Yeah.
that I was like, okay, so there is nothing he can't draw now. So I felt like um yeah, I saw his improvement a lot, and seeing what other people were doing as well, and um, that was really cool to uh, get like a circle of friends of people who were doing the same stuff I was as
Oh
well.
yeah.
I think that was like like I finally met people who were as serious
Mm.
besides Miles, I guess, but like
Yeah.
yeah, like I felt like any art school I went to before that, it was just like, oh, I'm just here to like kill
Yeah.
time basically, or like and I mean I did the stuff for Legend of the Cryptids, and then it started getting really like I sent something, and they were like, "This isn't good enough.
Mm.
We're thinking we're probably not gonna hire you again." And I was kind of like, "Oh shit!" Like I was mainly living off that, um, and I think it sucked because I kind of knew that he was right, that I was kind of rushing a lot, or I really felt that my work lacked some kind of fundamental knowledge because I would do a sketch that I really liked, and then I felt like the whole painting process was so frustrating watching it lose all of the qualities that I liked until it
Mm.
became like
Oh yeah.
overly smooth and rendered, overly
Very polished.
colorful.
Yeah.
Like I just couldn't grasp any of what I thought was good about the thing, and
Mm.
I honestly most of the stuff I put out, I felt like I kind of ruined that. So it was very frustrating time because I felt like everything I was working on I was making worse. So I think when they were like, "Oh yeah, this isn't that great," I kind of knew it was true. Um, and so I was like, "Oh, can I do like can we try another one or something?" And I don't remember really what happened. I think I did a few more, but then they just disappeared or something. Or they decided like, oh, we're gonna hire some in-house artists and we're not gonna hire freelancers anymore. And then they just kind of disappeared, and it was like
Yeah.
this weird whirlwind of
Yeah.
like they were there and then they were gone. Um, so I think with like that and then this kind of feeling that what I was making wasn't really that great, I decided to um I had a bunch of money saved up, and I decided I would study at the atelier here. So, I mean, people that don't know, it was yeah, like a classical drawing school that used like techniques from I don't know who even made the. I was gonna say Charles Barg, but I don't know. I think he.
I
But
can put the name on the
somewhere along
screen
the
here.
way, a lot of classical artists in like the 1900s
Hmm.
decided this is how you should draw, and
Yeah.
um, like taught students to paint like them, and those teachings got passed down through the years. And I think the it was run by a couple, and I think it started that they just had some people painting with them in their studio,
Hmm.
and then it grew and grew. I think it was maybe about 30 students, and it was a 3-year program, and you start by everything is drawing from life, and you start in charcoal, and then you move to chalk and charcoal on toned paper,
Hmm.
and then black and white oil painting, and then full color oil painting. And basically, your day looked like the morning from like 8 till 12 or whatever you
Hmm.
drew from a cast. So you have these statues, I guess, like a bust of a statue that you set up with lighting, and then you have your board, and your job is to pretty much make it look identical to how it looks from standing on a certain spot. And then the afternoon, you had a live model, and you did figure drawing for the rest of the day. And those could range from 1 to 3 weeks on the same drawing, I guess. And the cast
Wow.
drawings took like months, which was like in I think it was really almost like a brute force method of making you better.
Yeah.
That I don't know.
Hey.
I learned a lot, and it was I mean to start with, it was really weird being a student again after working for a few years, and uh, I don't know, realizing I wasn't as hot shit as I thought I was, and
It
I
seems
mean
that
I
you got
definitely.
really PTSD from like Legends of the Cryptos and going like, I'm
No,
really
I mean
gonna
I think it,
render the shit out of everything
yeah,
now.
exactly. I think it would just I mean that's what I remember anyway. I think there's probably other stuff, but just really feeling like there was something missing and seeing what those guys were doing, I
Yeah.
felt like um I'm lacking something.
Hmm.
So yeah, I wanted to go back to basics and learn uh how to draw good. 'Cause I did kind of miss that. Like I taught myself, but I don't know, I felt like it was like the perfect environment for getting better. So yeah, we did like yeah, lots of drawing from observation. And during that time, I was drawing like I mean, I pretty much lived at the school almost. Like we would hang out in the after school and just draw in our sketchbooks. And I think the people who did that really got way better because we were like applying what we were doing from observation
To
from our
imagination.
imaginations as well.
Hmm.
Whereas there was definitely like a thing where there were people who do these like amazing still lives and stuff, and then you look in their sketchbook and it'd be like, is this by the same person? Like this is crazy.
Yeah.
And I don't know, yeah, like s- would get opportunities for freelance stuff that I would turn away. I actually, I did some freelance on the side as well, which wasn't, it was a lot of work, so I kind of tried to stop doing that. But I actually got offered to do the D&D 5th edition player's handbook, and I said no because I was busy, and I was like, "That's might be one of the dumbest things I've ever done." Uh, which, yeah, in hindsight, I regret that a lot because I had no idea that that was going to be as popular as it was. Um, but it was just like I really wanted to focus my attention on what I was doing at the time, I guess. Um, and so I think I got to um, I finished like a chalk and charcoal um, and then the school announced that they were moving down to the south of Sweden into like way middle of nowhere kind of thing, and everyone kind of had to decide if they were going to join or not.
That's odd.
And at that point in time, I just didn't. I don't know. It just seemed obvious to me that that wasn't a good idea for me for some reason. Like I didn't want to. I wanted to be in the city and not in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird that you had to
So
follow like the school somewhere. Like it's your, I don't know.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it kind of split. So I think in total I did like a year and a half there. And by that point I felt like I'd gotten way more in tune with what I actually enjoy painting.
Mm,
And I'd gotten way better as well, especially in
yeah.
terms of values, how to render. You really learn how to like render the absolute hell out of something. Um, and even traditional media as well. Like I felt like when I would paint digitally, it was like I was painting in oils, if that makes sense.
Mm.
Like I would follow a similar process. So then after that, I was pretty lost because I was like, I guess I'll go back to freelance, and that didn't go that great, if I remember right, because uh, I think I did some job and I just realized like I couldn't do like illustrating was so hard because we did a lot of stuff from observation, but we never like really did like composing an image or like
Oh
uh
yeah.
I don't know. I just remember painting something and I was like, wow, this is like really difficult. Like especially in terms of like figures looking very stiff.
Mm.
Um, Not really being sure like where to put stuff. It just felt it looked really yeah, like too much influenced by life drawing. So it actually took me maybe a couple of years to unlearn some stuff as well. Because there was definitely some things from drawing too much stuff from life that was like hindering what I was doing. Um, yeah, I did like some projects, like I did this like year-long role-playing game project that ended up like not going anywhere. Uh,
Was that
Worked
Kickstarter
on
stuff?
some books.
It's a rough skip.
It was gonna be a Kickstarter,
Mm.
um, but it was very uh seemed pretty unrealistic from the start. But he would pay me every month, so I was like,
Oh,
well,
that's good. Yeah.
let's just go with it. But then I had like so many drawings and paintings from that, so I kickstarted a book out of that, which did like okay, and um, it gets kind of fuzzy around that point. I think I was about 24, and then so I'd been freelancing a couple of years, and like to be honest with you, I barely made minimum wage. Like
Yeah.
I lived in like my ex's student place.
Mm.
I lived very cheap. I would get like stressed taking the subway because it costs money for a
Oh
ticket.
yeah.
I really tried to reduce my living costs as much as possible so that I could survive. Like I wasn't thriving at all. Um, and I think I got a email from Valve and I
Mm.
was like, holy shit. And they were making like this Dota 2 artifact card game.
Oh yeah,
And I
that's a
was
big
like,
one.
oh man, there was like, this is gonna be the next Magic the Gathering. I was like, holy shit, and I'm gonna be in there from the beginning.
That's
I'm gonna
awesome.
be, there's gonna be convention. Like, the shit they were saying, I was like, oh man, this is great. Like,
Yeah.
and they probably the best I've been paid. I got like, I did 6 or 7 images for them over a couple of months, and then I was like, this is gonna be the big break of my career. Like, I'm gonna be flooded with stuff after this. And I think afterwards, I got paid, and then I got nothing for like 6 months.
Yeah.
Like I was sending stuff out, like no one wanted to work with me. And I think what had happened by that point was that I really tried to, um, I was just doing fantasy stuff, mostly kind of like dark fantasy,
Mm.
It's kind of like a mythical feel. I'd figured out a lot more like what I enjoyed. It felt like people would send me stuff of like, oh, this looks like something you would do. I'd kind of established a style, and I felt like I had my work had a much better quality. And for some reason, like you just get so much less work.
Yeah.
Like I was saying before, like when you're a beginner and you do anything, you'll get like loads of opportunities because you work for cheap. You're not so niched. But by that point, it was like, okay, so it's only people who want this kind of thing, and then I don't know, it just it was too
I,
specialized or something, and I was like really bad at um being proactive about reaching out to people as well.
mm,
I think I would just like wait for stuff to happen. So I just remember at that point being like, I think I was super depressed to be honest, and just so burnt out from working
mm,
so long with like so little results. That I remember like the idea of doing another illustration was just,
jeez.
I just hated the idea so much. I was like, I can't, like having to draw it all out and then like paint, like do
Yeah.
make sure everything's right. I was just like, if I have to do one more of these, I'm gonna snap. I don't know why, but I was just so
Yeah.
sick of it. Um, and then I had a friend here in Stockholm who was working at a casino studio, and he was like, "Oh, there's like a position open. Is that something you'd be interested in?" And just like as soon as he asked me that, I was just like, "Yes." Like I would do anything else than painting more freelance illustrations. Like, and I suddenly was like, "Oh, wow, the idea of having like a salary every month and
Oh,
not having to worry
jeez.
about it and like going somewhere to work instead of being in these like tiny apartments I've lived in just like slaving away alone every day. I was like, I want this so bad. So that didn't work out, but then there was like so many of those studios here that I pretty much just went around all of them. And then I went to a place called Thunderkick, and it was just so nice. Like I just went there, had like a really nice conversation with these guys, and then just as I opened the door to get in home, I got a phone call of like, "Do you want to come back and sign a contract?" And I was just like, ran out the door. Uh, so I was pretty much like, yeah, I don't care anymore. Basically, I was like, I'll just sell out. I just want to not have to worry about the money for a while. So I worked there maybe like 2.5 years, and it was like so good for me. I had like friends. I could afford stuff. Like I finally had like savings and stuff. I did some therapy because I'd gotten so much anxiety from being alone all the time.
Jeez. Yeah.
I
Tell me
just
about
felt
it.
like I was just like fixing the damage I'd done to myself from um like the choices I'd made along the way, I guess. And uh the work wasn't like really what I wanted to do, obviously. But it was really nice to well, I got to do like a bit of everything because we're
Mm,
like two artists and a programmer on a team, and you'd make a game in like 6 months, and you decided like the theme, the concept, you would draw and paint all of the assets in the game, you would animate all of those, and you
that's
would do
cool.
all of the VFX. And I knew how to do like none of that. Um, but I was very much willing to learn, and I think I don't know, my personality, I guess I like to try and take charge of stuff. So pretty quickly after the first game, I think I was like leading those projects, um, which I really enjoyed, and I hadn't had that like responsibility before, I guess. So it was really good for me. And then after a while, I was like, oh, okay, I'm working on uh casino games, which I don't really feel that ethically great about, honestly. And Um, I don't know. I guess I realized I was in like this flip side position where I, it's like I was in the opposite place I was in before I started working there, where I was like, oh, I have money for once, and but I don't do what I enjoy. Like I don't feel like there's a soul to what I do, whatever. So I think maybe I need to turn my lamp on. It's getting a bit dark now. There we go.
Oh, yeah,
And of course,
yeah.
did I
That's
do
because
that?
you turned on the lamp.
It
He
turned
died.
Daniel off. Oh no. Oh,
There we go. Hey,
It's
it was the
I turned
lamp.
you off.
Yeah.
It was the lamp.
Yeah, yeah. He
Yeah,
turned up
as
the
soon as I
lamp and
turned
it
my lamp
just like
on,
disappeared. Poof.
the
Well,
power.
You got the power.
Oh,
nice. Yeah, I'm using my mobile hotspot thing
oh,
because
okay.
my
All right.
Wi-Fi
Bit
died. So
spotty. Yeah.
All right.
Can
Well,
edit it out and
yeah.
post,
In
right?
that case, yeah. If
nice.
if if anything happens like too prolonged, we'll keep on going without you. I'll add you later. It's kind of like
Ooh.
a
Just a
cutout.
picture.
CGI.
Yeah.
Well,
All
I
right.
think
I don't.
the last thing I heard was that you were in-house. You were working on a game for 6 months, and it was just a team of three of you.
Yeah, yeah.
And
So
that's where I got cut off.
I think I made like 4 or 5 games with them over the time I was there, and sometimes I tried to freelance on the side, but it was always like a really terrible idea when you work 9 to 5. That was like
Yeah.
way
When do
too
you get the
hard. But
time?
it was
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't, but I was very like I don't know. I think the first year I was there, I didn't draw at all in my free time. I was pretty much just like I just want to be a normal person. Like I I just really didn't want to make it anymore or do anything to do with what I was doing before. I just felt like I'd gotten in such a hole of like being by myself all the time. Uh, like I don't know, I just really almost wanted like a normal life, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
the stuff that comes with just having a job, and so I like uh yeah, just kind of got myself together in that way, I guess. But I didn't really draw anymore. But then after like a year, I realized like it always comes back for you, that like
Oh yeah.
need to express yourself, I guess, or to I don't know, just something deep in your personality that you need to create something. So as much as I tried to like suppress that or whatever, I ended up coming back. And then so I was one thing I realized is like a lot of people who work in house um don't really work on their own stuff in their free time, and the idea is kind of like laughable to a lot of people, which I hated. Like I tried so hard, even like there'd be times when it was too much and I would take a little break, but I was always trying after that to be doing my own thing because I think I wanted to keep some sense of my own identity, or like, yeah, this job isn't who I am kind of thing. Um, but then, yeah, I think after that time, I just reached some point where I wrapped up a project and I was like, think I'm done. I think I really want to. It'd be like every summer vacation, I would take like a month off, and then by the end of that month, I would be like, I don't want to go back, and then I would sort of force myself to go back. So I really wanted to like do my own thing. So it was kind of bad luck because the place I lived at that time, I had gotten through my work. Like they had helped me like find that place on really short notice when I needed to. And so the place, but I'd asked them before, like, but I can still live there even if I don't work here, right? And they were
Hmm.
like, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I was like, yeah, I think I quit. Like, I'm gonna do something else. And they were like, okay, but you know you need to move out, right? Like, you don't have an apartment anymore. So I was like, okay, so I have like 3 months notice and I have to find an apartment. And I don't know, at least here it was like, uh, I mean, I wouldn't even be able to show any freelance income because I wasn't freelancing at the time. But even if I did, it would be really hard compared to having like a job contract. So I
Yeah.
was like, okay, I either show a new landlord like my old income and then hope that I can pay it, or I guess I need to find another job. And Paradox Interactive had reached out to me like a while before, so I messaged the art director there, um, and then uh, over like a bunch of months of interviews and stuff, I ended up getting hired with them, which like wasn't super much what I wanted to do, but I kind of like, yeah, by those circumstances had my hand kind of forced, and I was sort of like, oh, this will be a temporary thing. And then so I was actually a UI artist, which is really weird. And I
Really?
knew nothing about UI, but because of my experience with the casino games, it was like it's kind of like illustrated 2D elements, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
So they were like, we don't want our UI to just be buttons. It should have like decorative stuff painted into it. At least that's what I got told. And then when I talked to people there, they were like, okay, that's not how it's like you just do UI. So I was on a project and I got to do a lot of concept art in the beginning because I was one of the only artists working on this game.
Hmm.
And then as like time went on over a year or something, it became more like you need to design menus now, which I just never really adapted to, I guess. It wasn't really my thing. So yeah, I think I did that like a year and then up until this year. And then the beginning of this year here in Sweden, you can take this like leave to try and start your own business for 6 months. And at the end of that, if it doesn't work out, you can actually go back to your job. It's like a law to encourage entrepreneurs. So for me, that was kind of like a way to soft quit, if that makes sense. Like I can leave, but if it really doesn't work out, I can go back. So yeah, like been doing that since April this year. I've made. I mean, there were a few things that like led me to that along the way. Like I released a tutorial on ArtStation like a year ago
Yeah.
that did really well.
Hmm.
I was doing stuff like that in my free time, which is kind of killing me. But yeah, like I said, I just tried to never stop doing my own stuff. But there's something like that, I was like, okay, so you could actually earn like a passive income if you had time to do more of these. And another one was I did this sleeping statues illustration,
Hmm.
and it went. I started posting on Twitter, which I hadn't really gotten before, and after grinding on like Instagram for years, I
I know.
started posting on there, and it just like stuff would just blow up. I suddenly have like 20,000 followers, and I was like, what the hell? Like
Yeah.
the stuff I was doing back in 2017 that I thought no one liked, and I wasn't getting any recognition. I was just posting that stuff, and it turns out people liked it.
Yeah.
Like which is so funny. But I mean, I'm still glad I like worked full time because it was good for me in a lot of ways. But yeah, it's a lot to do with like the time and place and the people who see your stuff, I guess. But anyway, I made this sleeping statues illustration, and that went like viral, I guess. And I don't know, I really felt with that piece that okay, something's changed. Like I have this wasn't just like, like oh, I guess this was good. It was like, okay, I feel like I've actually clicked something here about like how to make a good piece of art finally
Yeah.
after like 10 years or something. Um, so I just gave me and just posting on Twitter generally gave me a lot of confidence in what I was doing, and I guess I felt like a lot of competence from working in studios and being able to like place yourself better in terms of where you actually stand.
Hmm.
What are your strengths? And one thing for me is like I just um want to be in control, I guess. I'm just like the most
Yeah.
annoying person to have
Right.
like if it's like a director in terms of like why are we doing it like this? Maybe we should do it like this. Like I like to sink my teeth into a project
Yeah.
and choose how I want to do it. And I think if I'm not doing that, I'm not going to be happy. So um yeah, looking at like what Miles is doing nowadays, like my brother kind of does a similar thing with like running his own business online and stuff, and I was like, I think I this is what would make me a lot happier. So, and along with that as well, like financially, like finally have like a cheaper renting situation again, and uh, yeah, finally have some money saved up. So it's like, okay, it's actually possible for the first time as well to do this. So, um, yeah, now I'm doing a bit of art direction, um, some like small indie game like devs I've done a few small things for as well. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, the cool thing is like I think I was kind of worried of like, oh, it's what if it's just like last time or whatever.
Hmm.
Um, but I really feel like I think the real problem when I freelanced last time was that I was so bored.
Hmm.
I was like so understimulated from not having any opportunities, and it was just myself, so there was no distraction. So it was basically just like days long of being like, oh, there's nothing to do because I was like waiting for something to happen. Whereas now I realized like if you want something to happen, you have to make it happen. Like you have to
Yeah.
really do stuff and like be relentless with like messaging people, posting stuff, like really be aggressive with like pushing your stuff out there because no one else is going to care. Like um can't
Something that it really
yeah.
calls my attention is the
Mm.
different graphic styles that you've kind of like got
Yeah.
throughout time. Because I remember one of your pieces, particularly when I was working for Hex on that
Mm.
time, and you also did. I think you did a couple of images for Hex, and one of them was this elven guy with masks around.
Yeah,
Yeah, I could put the image right here, and
sure.
it's just it was really awesome. Like
Yeah.
I was really blown away by that image, and I was
Yeah.
figuring out like how, oh, this guy is definitely gonna, end up working in Magic the Gathering in no time or something like
Right.
that. And
Yeah.
later on you kind of like change into a different style, and later on now you're kind of like in a whole different parameter with your style. And it really resonates. I feel like if you've maintained something like elemental in that graphic approach, like you can see it throughout the entire kind of like discourse of your career. And right now I feel like you got like a really good hand of it. Like, I feel like you can definitely like see that you're very happy doing what you're doing right now.
That's really nice to hear. Yeah, yeah, it's almost something I'm slightly like I don't almost like embarrassed about, I guess, that like which is funny 'cause like having so many styles, I mean that like I especially with how social media works these days, it almost feels like you're
Mm,
when people see your stuff, it should just be like a wall of like this
yeah.
is what I do, this is what it looks like. And I've over the years tried out like so much different stuff. Like I was very painterly into like just painting dark fantasy with knights. That's all I did before. And the funny thing is, at that point in time, I only had one very specific style, and I felt kind of bad about that as well because not everyone wants that.
No.
Um, and then I learned some 3D along the way, some sculpting, uh, got it more into playing around with like different levels of stylization. And I mean, I'm still trying to figure that out. But I remember like that Master of Masks picture, it was like one of those first ones where I was like, everyone seems to think this is good, and I see it too, but I don't know what I did. And there's been like so many of those along the way where I was like, I recognize that something happened here,
Yeah.
and this resonates with people for some reason, and I want to try and replicate that again, but it's so
Yeah.
hard to like figure out. And that's honestly been like the real journey of like the last 5 years, I guess, of trying to yeah, figure out like I mean, you make a lot of paintings, and some of them do really well and some don't. And over time, you try and figure out what that is.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think with that it was like the simplicity of it, but also the storytelling, which the more I paint and draw, the more I realize that's what most people care about.
Yeah.
Especially, like I said, posting on Twitter, it's like most, before that, a lot of the people who saw my art were other artists, and they would just look at it and be like, oh, the technique is so good, or
Yeah.
whatever. No one else cares about that
No, no one
at
else
all.
does.
Like, normal people don't care how it's made,
Yeah.
or in a lot of cases, like, even maybe how it looks, but like, what is, how does it make you feel? What is the story? Like, does it capture you? Does it immerse you?
Yeah.
Uh, what's the message? And it's like, that was such a big realization for me.
Yeah.
Like, in terms of figuring out, like, art is a way of communicating with other human beings.
Hmm.
And I was spent so long thinking it was just about getting better and better, like some like shonen anime that you
I
just
know.
keep on improving your skills
Yeah.
forever. And it was all about like me and my skills. And now I realize it's about like connecting with people basically,
Yeah.
and um, yeah, basically like getting on a podium and being like, does anyone else feel like this? Or like, does this like mean anything to people? And that doesn't even have to be like on a big spiritual level. It can even just be like, I really want to capture in this piece like what it's like when you walk along the beach and your feet are in like waves that come by us. So like just trying to make people feel any kind of sense of place.
Yeah.
Um, Actually, one book that really opened my eyes was um, Making Comics by Scott McCloud. I don't know if either of you have read that.
No, I haven't.
Yeah.
No, I
Uh,
would recommend it
Hmm.
because at first I was like, oh, this is just about comics, and I was kind of interested, like, oh, every artist has been
Yeah.
like, oh, make a comic. So I was
Yeah.
like,
Oh my
oh, I was
god,
reading
one
about
day.
it. But uh, but honestly, it's just an amazing book about art and like symbols, and I think he talked to that about how um one of the reasons why something like Tintin is so beloved worldwide, or even
Hmm.
like Moomin or something like that, is like that when the backgrounds are drawn very realistically, but the characters are drawn very simplistically, it's almost like easier to project yourself as a viewer onto them. Um,
Oh yeah.
if you take something like The Simpsons, it's like they're drawn. I mean, it's basically abstract art when you look at it. Like
Yeah.
they look so weird,
Oh, a bunch of
but we like
sausages.
connect with them. Yeah, we connect with them so much. Of like uh, understand who Bart Simpson is as a human being,
Yeah.
which is
yeah.
so strange. And it's like, I think his idea was that like, you almost have like I subconscious idea of yourself,
Hmm.
what you look like almost, but you don't really see yourself, but you see your surroundings, and they look very real. So when there is these characters who are like that too, there can almost be like a vessel for you. And then I got very interested in playing around with that idea of having like stylized characters in a more realistic environment. And I'm still playing with that. Like I don't know quite the level of like some of the stuff I've done recently is like,
Yeah.
okay, this was maybe a bit too childish or whatever, but you kind of have to, I don't know, as someone who spent a long time being like, oh, maybe if I think hard enough about what my style should be, it'll be good. I realize now like you kind of just have to make pieces and the style will grow along the way of
Yeah.
like into what you want it to be eventually.
Plus, you're
Yeah.
using your skills that you already spend your time on. I mean, like your last pieces,
Yeah.
you're using a lot of Blender, a lot of 3D that you.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
don't think that at no point in your early career you went like, oh, I'm going to study Blender too. It's like no, like I think like
Exactly.
it was something that came across, and you just picked it up, and now it's part of your arsenal, which is
Yeah.
which is really cool to see because it carries not only the personality that you're trying to give but also the history of your career that you're going through with and it's just like putting it right there like in the image.
Yeah. And I mean that pretty much came from like just never wanting to draw a background perspective again. Honestly.
All the fucking lines going
Yeah. Yeah.
in.
And I mean, that's like, I don't know, like when I finished school, I would never have thought that I would like pick up 3D modeling. But yeah, I think that was just somewhere along the way of like having that, like that was while I was working that I started doing that for fun
Mm,
because I just thought it was cool and I had the space to like pick that up. And that definitely wouldn't have happened if I just kept on like hammering my head against the wall trying to do the same thing over and over again. So, yeah, in hindsight, it's like I don't know. Like I'm almost glad that happened, that it didn't work out because I think my career, if I hadn't had that break to go do full-time studio stuff, I would have like my quality of life would really suck, and also like yeah, and my mental health, which is like no big like no small thing,
no.
but also I think I like there's a ceiling like once you've worked with it, you kind of realize like there's not that much money in like role-playing games and stuff.
Nope.
It's not like a
Or fantasy art for.
super thriving business like it, and
Yeah.
it's the people who do it. I mean, like you, you work a lot, and it's the people I know who like live off like doing book illustrations and stuff. Like, will freely admit that they like reduce their living costs a lot,
Yeah.
to make it work. And I think I guess I realized that there is kind of a ceiling to if that's what you want to be of like you
Yeah.
will work for the biggest clients.
Mm,
And I think that's kind of what hit me when I did the Valve thing. I was like, this is probably one of the biggest jobs you could get
mm,
in this field,
yeah.
and it's like still not what I want it to be kind of thing. I think that's kind of what broke me with that. So yeah, I think just wanting to like open up um like the boundaries, I guess. And I mean, yeah, like seeing how much money is in like casino games and stuff, like just getting that perspective of
Yep.
like they'll just fly the whole company to Spain or whatever, and you're like, this is insane. Like how, like they're so polar opposites, I guess. And I mean, like I said before, the difference is that like I think the people with working with role-playing games like really love what they do, and the people working with casino games don't. Uh, or I don't think I met one person who was like genuinely
Yeah. Me neither.
loved it so
Yeah.
much. But yeah, I think just that perspective of like there is a lot of money in art, but just not doing that one thing, I guess. And like now, I don't know, I like I said before, I would just take jobs because I felt it was better to be working than not to be.
Hmm.
Which is like, yeah, I don't know why I did that. Like I would just work for so cheap and not ask for more because you're not supposed to or whatever, and then
Yeah.
not really thrive off it. Whereas now I'm just really refusing to work for things that aren't my rates, and I've been like turned down by a lot of people. But I don't know, like I did that ArtStation tutorial recently, and I was like, I'll get more money off this month than doing this piece of freelance work.
Yeah.
Um, just trying to recognize that your time is really valuable, and another thing as well, that's been really important to realize is like anything you do, you will get more of. So like when I was doing the UI stuff at Paradox, it's like, okay, I could spend a year getting good at this,
Mm,
and then I will get more UI work, which I don't enjoy. And it's like,
Right.
I feel like everything I've done along the way has been like, if you put the time into something, you'll probably get better at it, and then you'll do some stuff, and then people will want more of it. And then the opportunities you'll get will be that thing you didn't really like because you did something for the wrong reason, basically. So yeah, I think taking some time to work on the stuff that I actually want to be making so that people see it and say like, okay, we want you to do more of this. That's sort of my goal
Yeah.
right now.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
You.
that's
It's kind of
yeah.
like building your portfolio, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And
But
at
yeah,
the.
also kind of shouting out to the world like this is what I want to be doing.
Yeah. No,
So you
definitely.
stop doing stuff you don't like.
Yeah. No, and that's awesome because I feel like Yeah, you got something that is really attractive for people right now, and also I feel like the story that you're telling like even enhances that even more. Like it will put the foot down and go like, oh, like this guy's gone through this entire, you know, literally a career to just get to the point where it's just like this is what I'm really good at and what I can do for you. And not only that, I'm creating a product too as well where I'm getting passive income, and it's just like I don't know, it's kind of
Yeah.
like you're literally building your own company from ground up.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. And the thing is, like, I really do feel like I'm starting from sort of square one with an advantage, if that makes sense. But I mean, I did pretty much like demolish my freelance career. Like, I have no
Hmm.
contacts from people I worked with before and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. I feel if, like I said, it's some like weird idea of like, especially with social media, you get this idea that you're supposed to be on this straight path to success.
Yeah.
And it seems like people just figured out what they do and then they did it over and over again and then got really popular and really successful doing that. And it
Yeah.
hasn't been like that at all for me. And
Mm.
I feel in a lot of ways like I'm just getting started now, even though, like I said, I've been started drawing seriously at like 14 and now I'm like 28 and only just like feel like, hey, I'm getting some idea of what people actually like about art.
Yeah. It's kind of like you're getting your
Yeah,
doctorate.
Yeah, exactly.
that's that's really interesting because from a like an external perspective, I guess I've met a lot of people that just saw you as like a reference, especially back in the concept.org days.
Yeah,
People were like, "Look at Sam's sketchbook. Just look at what he's done. Look at
Yeah.
what he's
right.
doing." And then all of
Yeah,
a sudden, you kind of disappeared, and people were
yeah,
like, "What the hell? Why isn't he working for Magic? Why isn't he doing
right.
this? Why isn't he
Yeah,
doing that?" And
yeah,
You should be working for Magic, Sam. Just-
yeah. But I mean, I don't know. And I think it was just really like the money, I guess, like realizing, like I actually did like the Magic board game,
Mhm.
like directly for
yeah,
Hasbro, and I was like, I'm getting paid like double what people get paid for like real Magic cards. I think I just really like realized that the whole system is like,
messed up.
It's
yeah,
not
pretty
it's
much
rigged.
like, and a lot of it is like, yeah, the artists are like, oh, I played Magic the Gathering since I was a teenager. It's my dream to
Yeah,
work on it.
Mm.
It's like what you read like pretty much everywhere when people post like their
It's kind of
first
like a
Magic
passion
card,
project,
which
really.
yeah, which is like important, but it shouldn't be the main reason
Yeah.
you do something. But I think it is a lot of people's like it was my goal to do that.
Yeah.
When I was like 18, I was like, that's the height of what I could achieve as an artist is to work on Magic the Gathering, and then that just like sort of evaporated over time, I guess, as a um reality
Mm.
came and
And also, it's
kicked in for
realizing
me. Yeah.
that not as kind of like, that the rest of the people are very responsible or anything like that. I don't feel like anybody is thinking about like giving wrong impressions, but young artists like I was back in the day, like Dan was back in the day, like we all were back in the day. We're very impressionable, and it creates this fandom of like, oh, this is kind of like the lifestyle that you want to have. This is kind of like the gigs that you want to have. Everybody wants to work for this set company, and at the and you don't realize what is behind kind of like the curtain, and what the reality of the situation is. That maybe it's a 0.1% of the artists are doing that, and not only you know to be the best at it, but also like the ones that kind of like fit the mold, because it doesn't matter. Like there's a point where skill really doesn't take you anywhere. It's just they're all gonna be good at a certain point. You're there. Everybody's gonna have a certain type of skill where you're gonna be competent at something, but then you're gonna have like what do you want to do with your career, and how versatile you are with it. And how you're moving inside of it, and how really you're taking your career. If you don't want to take it over there, like you're not going to do it, like organically
Yeah.
even. And it almost gives that sensation, because I had the same realization that you did with freelancing, that yeah, freelancing shouldn't be a career almost. It's almost kind of like what originally I think it was, which is like, oh, I have this on the side. I have this other gig on the side, and that's freelance. But
Yeah.
dedicating to that is kind of like it only works if you're living in a country like when I was living in Colombia for a year or
Yeah.
Indonesia, where just the money conversion is just so outrageous that it, like getting paid $200 or $400, it really makes your month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. And then living in Sweden, that's like can't even maybe pay my food or something. It's like
Yeah.
it's yeah, and it's yeah, a lot of people I know who do that like and really thrive off it do live somewhere where it's very cheap
yeah.
and the yeah,
Yeah.
the currency conversion's so
Brazil
good.
is popping. I
Yeah.
tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's all go there.
It's
We'll
true.
create
Yeah.
an artist haven.
Yeah. I mean, I have thought about it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. That's literally what I'm doing right now. I'm in Bolivia, which is in South America. So
Nice.
like whatever money I can make is just awesome. It's great.
You're living like a king.
I'm living, yeah, people think I'm rich and
Nice.
shit.
I mean, I would do that if I could if I could, if I had made different choices and I was, yeah, wanted to go that path. I think that's like such a good,
Yeah, I mean, tell me about it.
not to have the freelance, like the financial like chokehold on you to like
Yeah,
be forced to do stuff, because
Yeah.
that's like influenced so many of my choices like so heavily. It's just like I don't want to get evicted and I don't know,
yeah.
be homeless. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a huge difference
I
from people
think
that are living in San Diego or California, in LA,
uh,
and they're kind of like in the hub of entertainment versus somebody that is living like in South America. Like I was living in Chile and when I got my, the email, the famous email to get into Magic the Gathering, I was just like, okay, that's it. Like I'm definitely
I've
gonna be
made it.
yeah,
making more money than both of my parents combined,
mm.
and I was kind of like jumping on one leg, and then I had the awesome idea of coming to New York.
How's the rent in New York?
and that became a little bit more complicated over
Yeah,
time.
but I mean,
Wow.
I do think there is something as well to like, I mean, I've thought before like the people who live in the US and go to like those conventions and
Mm,
stuff,
yeah,
they like a lot of being successful at freelance or any business is just like networking basically. And I did none of that at all
mm,
before. And I think that was a big thing that hurt me a lot too. So yeah, I think it is good to be where things are happening.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember there was this huge like myth back in the day on concept art where people were just like, as long as you're good, you're gonna get hired. You don't
Yeah.
have to do anything else. You know,
that may
networking doesn't matter. Nothing matters.
I think it's
So
prevalent. Like still goes on, like that. The fact that if you get good, you get good rates. Like nah, I don't
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, most of the great opportunities I've had has just been like from being like nice to people along the way and someone like I got recommended for like a pretty big job recently and I realized it was actually like a friend from my hometown
No kidding.
who's just like followed my work since
That's so cool.
then and he just thought I was a cool guy and he saw that I wanted to freelance and he works at a company and just like recommended me and it's like it's always stuff like that where you just like leave a good impression on people like that.
Yeah.
Most of the good opportunities I've had have been just from that, to be honest, and not even to do with my work. And like working in studios, I realized like being able to paint is like a plus, but it's not necessary at
Yeah.
all. Like
Yeah.
people would
Almost
be like,
not
"Oh, you can
necessary.
actually draw, so that's pretty cool."
Yeah.
Like, it's like, but it's
You're
so
very
much to do with
prolific.
like be um communicate like ideas and stuff, and honestly, mostly just being like pleasant to work with. is one of the biggest things.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it's uh yeah, that whole thing of like, because I had that as well of like, if I just grind and I get good enough, everyone will have to work with me, and it
Yeah.
just like
I can
doesn't
afford
happen
being
like
a
that. 'Cause
jerk.
yeah, exactly. But I think that like Neil Gaiman or someone had like this triangle of like three things to be successful at
Yeah,
stuff. It's like
I've
I
heard
can't remember
about
what
it.
it like be really good, deliver on time, and like be nice, and you can choose two and still be successful.
Yeah.
Like you can be a jerk and you deliver on time, people will take it.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Even then,
yeah, I mean,
people will not like. I think
no,
today
exactly.
with
I mean,
social media, even like
yeah,
people are just
for
like
sure. I mean, you'd have to be like really, really, really good, I think, and
yeah,
even then, probably not. But
undeniable.
um, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I was wondering, that period when you mentioned that you, after Applebot and
Mm,
before Valve,
mm,
like when your work was at a very specific point where like you
mm,
had a very specific style, but you were doing still fantasy type
yeah,
stuff. Do you think that was like a sort of a bad idea? Because you, at that, like, I remember seeing a lot of artists that I thought, I don't know, Brom or whoever else
mm,
that have a very specific style
mm,
and they were getting hired. And I was like, man, I think that's the way everyone should be heading. But
mm,
then you got there and it was like you mentioned that like you were having a lot of trouble
mm,
getting work. So do you think that
yeah.
was a good idea in hindsight or
I don't know. I think um, I do kind of wonder if I stuck with it more if, just like I said, because with social media and stuff, I think niching yourself so
mm,
much, people are like, it's the guy for that thing. Like, I wonder if I'd been a bit smarter with that stuff, maybe it would have worked, but I don't know, that's kind of hard. Yeah, because at that point in time, I was really like, the best thing you can do is to like choose a niche style and be the guy who's good at it. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, but you also have to be like big basically in order for it to work. So it's a bit of like a chicken and egg thing of like in order to get there you have to do that, but you also have to like get less opportunities because you're so limited. Yeah, I don't know actually. I think it really depends on the artist. But for me it didn't work out so much. But I think like I said, I was really bad at like business. So I just like very passive, like really waiting for something to happen rather than I think I see artists on Twitter now who choose like a really niche style, and they just do it so good and like immediately recognize it, and that they grow so quick because um you just love to see someone who like knows what they want to do and they enjoy it and
yeah.
you want more of it, I guess.
yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I think it can really work well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really like to me it's almost unbelievable because back in the day I remember seeing that stuff and I was talking to a lot of people that saw your stuff then and
Mm.
they were like, Sam's just amazing. Where is he? What is he doing? Why
Right.
isn't he getting hired or what's going on?
Yeah.
And just the fact that you tell me right now that a lot of companies weren't hiring you, it's like what the hell, you know?
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know, like what, yeah, I was really bad. Like I got told by the D&D art director like you should apply for Magic, and I didn't because I didn't think my work was good enough. Like I was very I had like very little self-confidence, and I think that's honestly was tied to kind of the style of how it was with like concept.org and Crimson Daggers, that it was kind of
Yeah,
like
Hardcore.
you suck, you
Yeah.
need to get better. And I had a really negative voice in my head that
Yeah.
was just like, you're shit, you have to work hard because you're bad. And that was like the main reason I worked so hard, was like just that
Mm,
insecurity of feeling like that I was so bad at drawing, which I think isn't sustainable in the long run, because like that's why I ended up hating what I was doing, and I really had to like get rid of that in order to actually like enjoy drawing.
yeah.
and it not just being about like getting better and yeah, like the whole grind thing, you
Still
know.
Yeah.
feel that way?
No, I mean yeah, like I don't have that at all anymore. I just like I said, it's way more for me now about like what it is that I'm drawing, um, trying to come up with interesting ideas, and like the technique is basically like how articulate you are at
Mm.
expressing that idea. Like, and there's a lot of room in that for like, uh, I don't know. I mean, like some art you see is like this, the technique is really crass. Um, I think of like the mouse comic about like, uh, what like World War II Germany with like these mice. It's like pretty crudely drawn, but it's like a masterpiece. And it's a comic, so I guess it's kind of different, but it's that wouldn't be better if it was drawn and painted better. I think it would be worse. So yeah, I just realized that there's a lot of room there now, and I the technique comes second for me nowadays.
Yeah.
Which I wish I'd known earlier, I guess. But that's kind of a you can say that in hindsight when you have the skills to pull stuff off from
Yeah.
working that whole time, I guess. But like, I mean, I didn't have the skills before, so if I'd been told like technique is secondary, I'd be like, okay, like
It would
then what
almost.
was the
I remember myself when I was younger. I feel like that would have been insulting for me. I would have been like,
Yeah,
"How dare
exactly.
you?
Because like your whole I like
Get
ego
out of
is
my
built
room,
on
mom."
like how good you are. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But yeah, I don't know. But yeah, like I didn't yeah, I didn't put myself out there that much
Mm.
because I had pretty low confidence about my work, which is pretty sad in hindsight because I actually really liked the stuff I did around that time. Like the funny thing is like 2017, like when I was so depressed, I look back at the work and I'm like, this might be some of the best stuff I've ever done. Like, which is so stupid. But like I actually really like a lot of the work I did then, but I
Wow.
didn't see it at the time. I didn't appreciate like my own stuff. Um,
Yeah. Everyone
but
was
also
going
like
crazy about your stuff, but people loved it.
I don't
Yeah.
remember that, but um,
Do you pay
but
a lot of
I
attention to social media back in the day? Because I do.
um
I do remember like that it was. It, it was kind of like a little bit of I don't know, kind of like a collection of certain artists that were like popping off on Facebook related to, either Crimson Daggers or concept.org. And I've always had the question whether they're kind of like aware how much, profile they have, profile presence they have.
yeah, I mean, I guess I don't think I have that much of a presence because like Miles is my best friend and he
Hmm.
has like 1 million Instagram followers. So it's like
Yeah.
I like and when you I don't know, it's like when you do something, the more you see other people, the more you realize where you actually stand, I guess.
Hmm.
And I think in terms of like my online presence, very small in comparison to most artists who are doing this professionally, I guess. So, I guess I don't really see myself as being very big online, I guess. And I mean, I've definitely been down the trap of like, um, getting too into it. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I thought this was really good, and then I post it, and everyone hates it, and now I feel bad. Um,
Mm.
which is like, and that's can still be a problem because you get sucked in, and it's like a game, like a point system or
Yeah.
something, which is like, really constant struggle to make sure you're painting stuff for you and you let other people see it rather than painting for the audience because it
Yeah.
just like you can just feel it when it's wrong, and other people see it too. Um, yeah, I don't, but that's really hard. I mean, I think a lot of people, from what I read online, like struggle with that right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think probably having Miles there as like someone that's has such a huge following and stuff can be like a very dangerous thing because you want to compare yourself to him and
Yeah,
all that sort of stuff.
yeah.
And
That was like,
honestly, like back in the day, I do remember a lot of people talking to me about you, Sam, just saying
yeah,
great stuff like about your work and
yeah,
stuff like that. And just the fact that you tell me all this stuff right now, that how you felt and all that is just like completely the
You're
opposite of
giving
what I
Daniel
thought.
that's so
depression.
funny. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's all a lie. I don't know. I mean, it's cool to hear that, to hear that, but yeah, I guess, I don't know. I didn't it's so weird to hear, I guess, because I didn't experience that at all at the time, in terms of, but like I said, I mean, it just, at least with social media, it ends up being like a numbers game almost.
Yeah,
Like, um, it's like, yeah, a small group of people can think something you do is really cool, but if it's not like a big enough number, then it's a failure, which is like,
yeah,
Yeah.
again, pretty sad, I think. I think I definitely am trying to constantly remind myself that even if your work does just like really connect with like one person, that's
that's enough.
a huge success.
Yeah,
But especially trying to grow a business where the more people that see your stuff, the more money you'll probably make. It definitely gets tied into it a lot of like, oh, I'm failing if I don't get this number or whatever. Yeah. Which seeing beginner artists start drawing in that environment seems pretty bad to me. Like I
yeah, me too.
feel so lucky that I was around at this short window of time for conceptart.org, like the forum days, because it felt like such a real community. It felt like everyone was trying to get better, and it was like clear that it wasn't about ego, it was about how hard you work. And
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. And now it's much more about presenting this image that you're amazing from the get-go, and you see like 16-year-olds who are like absolutely insane. They just seem like they just popped up out of nowhere.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's
That was what we felt about you and Miles,
yeah,
though.
I know.
Like,
yeah,
But I mean,
a
you could
little bit.
see, you
Yeah,
could
exactly.
see, I guess, at least the of like that was the cool thing with the sketchbooks of like, okay, so there's proof here. There's like 100 pages of forum posts that
Yeah.
spans like years, and every day you draw, and if you start flicking through like bigger increments, you see like this crazy improvement. Whereas
Yeah.
nowadays you don't see that at all. You
no,
just get like, and it's feel especially with the current move to like more video-based content with like TikTok and Instagram Reels, it's really about I don't know, presenting this very polished picture of who you are and what you make, I guess.
yeah,
Yeah.
Um, I think I would find that really demotivating if I was getting into art now.
yeah. The way of media has evolved, like, has made it very more kind of like consumable friendly, where it's just
Mm.
that. Whereas for the artist, it's become less friendly because you have to
Hmm.
do so much more post processing and kind of like editing and
Yep.
it's I've done a couple TikToks and I realized like, oh, this is actually a job, kind of like
Yep.
it's a full gig, like it's
Yeah,
not I
and
can't do it in my couch lounging for two
no,
minutes
no. And like and then you're like, oh, and I have an Instagram and a Twitter and all this other stuff. Like it's I don't know, like when I started again now doing stuff, I spent a few weeks being completely overwhelmed, being like, oh, I need to be making stuff all the time to be posting. Whereas now I've realized you almost have to like wring as much content out of a painting you do as possible, in order for it to work. But yeah, I think the way it's, yeah, like much more, you're supposed to be a content creator than an artist, and this idea as well that you should follow like trends, because that's kind of the thing on TikTok now is like you see a trend and then you hop on it,
mm.
and because you're riding that wave you're more likely to get seen. I think that's just like
It's a bit vapid.
against everything I'm about as like a person and an
Yeah.
artist. Like and like I tried it for a little bit. It's like I don't even notice any difference. Like then I think the resounding message I get more and more from posting stuff is like the less of a shit I give and the more I just do what I genuinely enjoy,
Yeah.
people resonate with that the most.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like I don't know why I keep getting um sidetracked away from that of like trying to almost guess what it is that people want from you and then trying to come up with something. But it's like really the more you are just following what speaks to you, I think
Well,
does better
it's
because
what's
people
gonna
see it.
make you wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning or wherever you need to,
Yeah.
and make you work 12 hours a day if you need to. You know, like
Mm.
I don't think that working for Casino Royale or the other job that you were doing, you know, for casino, you know, studios,
Mm.
like that's gonna make you. I don't think that you're gonna do that for a lifetime. Where at a certain
No.
point when you're 60, you're gonna be like, I've been working 40 years for casinos, and
Yeah.
this is the house that I
Yeah.
built with it, you know, and this is the
Mm.
food that I bought
But
with
I
it.
would say though, like the one thing I did realize with jobs like that though is it's like people will decline a job because it doesn't have good opportunities for advancement,
Mm,
like rising up.
yeah,
But like freelance illustration, it's like there's this pretty hard ceiling
yeah.
um if you just want to do that. So yeah, I mean,
It almost seems
I
like
think the idea,
entrepreneurship. Like it's pretty
yeah,
much up to you. Like you,
yeah,
that's what I realized early on with. I think when I not when I think a little bit before when I got into Magic the Gathering, I feel like I started realizing like, oh, like if I really stay idle or I just don't don't make it kind of like my own business,
mm,
the business that I'm doing, like it's just it can really go southwise.
yeah. And just but like, and even if you like, um, if you're thinking in the short term and you're doing really good, it can still bite you if you don't think about how it's gonna grow in the long term because
Yeah.
it's like at some point, like if you work in a regular job, you'll get like a pay rise and then you can move to another position that pays more and you're
Mm.
like by the time you're like 50 or 60, you're going to be earning so much more than when you started in like your 20s. But like the rates for a lot of fantasy freelance stuff doesn't really change and it's
No.
like I think uh the people who do it really well like I would love to hear how because it's like
Yeah.
I think I think you either have to really make a name for yourself or just really turn it into like a lucrative business through just doing every field like prints, workshops, comment like
Yeah.
everything in order to make it work. Because yeah, it's like sorry if I'm like giving you a crisis. Your eyes are just like, oh,
All the viewers right now.
Yeah.
yeah.
Me and all
I'm
of
just here
yous
to
now.
crush everyone's streams.
No, actually, that's what the podcast is about. You know,
Yeah.
just
Yeah. Oh, good.
Crashing dreams.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, ruining
crushing
We're
people's
people's.
here doing
hopes.
the yeah, good
No.
Lord's work.
But I mean, I don't know, like, because that's why I like say now of like, okay, I, like went to like just do art when I was like 16 and then dropped out at 17. I was like all in on doing this. And I just didn't think that far ahead at all. Like I was just like, it pays money. That's good. And I just didn't have like enough idea of like the world of
Mm,
like, okay, but what do you do when you're like middle aged and you're still earning like the same income you did
yeah.
like 20 years before or something? Yeah, it's really the business side, I'd say that
Have you had
sucks.
many young people reach out to you with these questions and just like ask you like, hey, how do I start up and how do I just like,
Yeah, I get that kind of question. Yeah, I mean, I always happy to answer that stuff. But I'm pretty honest, I guess, in
yeah,
terms of like, uh, especially with people like who are like wanting to just go all in, because I really kind of wish I'd gotten, not that I would have listened, but I wish I'd gotten warned about some of that stuff. Maybe someone did, and I just like disregarded it. It's like, oh, they don't get it or whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, I I sort of encourage people to really question why it is they want to work with it. Like, there's something with art where people uh want to make it a job so badly.
Hmm.
Um, Whereas like a lot of people play guitar as a hobby,
Yeah.
because they enjoy it. And it's like I think it's really important to define like why it is you want to work with it all the time.
Yeah.
Because
It's a need.
yeah, it's like for some people I think it's like yeah, like you said, like I just never wanted to do anything else.
Hmm.
Um, to the point where I just had zero interest in anything other than drawing. Um, but I don't know. I think if it's about like being appreciated by people or like any kind of recognition thing, it's definitely like not a good reason.
Yeah.
And um, yeah, I guess anything to do with like I don't know, because you don't enjoy it all the time when you're working for other people.
Hmm.
Like it does become a job pretty quickly. Like there's there are like really nice gigs that you enjoy, but a lot of the time it is like it goes from oh, I wish someone would pay me to paint to like I wish someone would pay me to paint this way or this
Yeah.
kind of stuff. Um, and so a lot of the time you're still not really doing what you enjoy that much. Like
Yeah.
it's nice, very nice to be sitting and painting all day. And it's satisfying, but it's still very hard even when you work with it to get paid to do exactly what you
Yeah.
want,
Early
which is
on,
what I think a lot of people want.
yeah. Early on,
Yeah.
you're not gonna have many people hiring you to do your own style. Like for the
Mm.
longest time.
I think a lot of the reason why people want to work with it is linked to this idea of like freedom, like, oh, you get to do whatever you want. Uh, I guess that's what I mean, that it's you often don't. Um, and the best case scenario is often you get paid to do something very close to what you like. Uh, but
Yeah.
the the best stuff still is the paintings I do for myself. Um, that like I guess the good really good thing is that you actually get the time to work on your stuff. Whereas when I worked full time, you're like squeezing in after hours, and that's really hard. So I guess a lot of people who do keep it as a hobby, there is that element of like I don't get to do this enough to really grow in it.
Hmm.
But I think I don't know. I guess I think it actually is good for some people to be like recognize like I think I just want to do this for fun
Yeah.
and enjoy that and like not
I
beat yourself up of like I need to be the best at this uh and I need to find a way to earn money from this because I think yeah it's like it can also just be like a really nice hobby.
yeah.
um
And it's
so yeah
commendable.
I think it's important. Yeah.
Honestly, like it's commendable when you have people like going like I'm gonna be the very best, and
Mm,
just like you know get knocked out all the way
mm,
and still going. It's like wow, you got a lot of
mm,
grit. That's cool, but
mm,
also nobody's gonna come back and just like be disappointed if you decide like, hey man,
mm.
you can do this on the weekends just as well,
Yeah.
and on the
Yeah.
period of 20 years, even you might be working for Magic the Gathering. Who knows?
Yeah.
You might
Yeah,
be
exactly.
getting good at it, you know?
Yeah. And I mean I know like um a lot of other artists who have had like similar experience to me as well of like just reaching this point where it's like you know what I don't want to do this anymore. Like
Mm.
people are really good at drawing and they just quit because it's like just too much pressure, whatever. But same kind of thing though. It's like you always kind of get sucked back, at least in terms of like if you try not to create anything, eventually it's gonna give.
Yeah.
And I think that's just a need of like expressing yourself or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. It can become really soul crushing, just freelancing job after job. And
Mm.
I remember you had a video of like on YouTube where you were in the shower or something
All
and
right,
you
yeah,
that was so
yeah,
relatable. It's so funny.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I feel like, yeah, that was like around like the Crimson Daggers time or whatever, and just like, uh, goofing around a lot was pretty good. I don't know. Uh, yeah,
You have
uh,
like desire to go back to doing fantasy freelance, just like what you were
um,
doing before. Do you think you'd do that in the future, or
I don't know. I feel like, the opportunities I want going forward, I guess, would either be licensed work, like
Hmm.
posters for like a existing project, or like I don't know. I mean, I'm very like picky now, and I don't think, or maybe it'll happen. Like the projects that really interest me are where it's just like you're the only artist and you get to make everything and decide how everything looks. And I mean, I've had that a couple of times, and for whatever reason, it hasn't really like panned out. But I really do enjoy like yeah, if I can get like I get to design the whole deck of cards,
Hmm.
then I'll do that stuff. But if it's just like a one-off, like you do a card illustration, I think I'm pretty done with that, I guess. Um, yeah, I mean, like at this point, the work that would really speak to me would be like, we want you to come in and give your whole look to this project, and that's sort of where I'm trying to like make my work at the moment like
Yeah.
recognizable or unique enough that that's going to happen in the future. That there's some quality of like, oh, we want this guy to work on this. And to me, that feels like um, that next kind of level, or like I think someone I talked to called it like being like a named artist, if
Hmm.
that makes sense. Like we'll kind of know what that means as people like that, who it's like, oh, um, you're not just hiring them as like a hired gun to
Sounds very high class.
do like an yeah, exactly, but do like a an anonymous job for us that no one really sees, but like we want it to like define the look of this project. That would be the work that I would really want to do. Yeah, and I mean it's probably going to take a while to get to that, but the thing I said before about like whatever you do, you get more of. It's like I know that if I start doing fancy illustrations again, I'm gonna get more of that, and it's gonna take
Yeah.
more of my time. So I think it's better for me right now to work towards that goal of yeah, becoming a named man.
Named man. And I think that
Yeah.
you're gonna make it. Honestly, I think that you hit on something with whatever the products that you're doing right now with the style
Mm.
and and you also like emphasizing on whatever you're talking about right now with finding yourself and getting your own voice out there and just
Mm.
really getting your own personality through the work. And I
Yeah.
think like it's just a matter of time when
Yeah.
not even somebody, it could even be you, that you realize like, I'm sick and tired of it, I'm doing it myself.
Yeah.
And and it's actually like, you know really profitable on the long run
Yeah.
too as well.
Yeah. I think that's been a nice realization as well that I'm fully happy if this doesn't work out financially. Like if I'm not thriving off this in the next like 3 to 5 years, I'm just gonna go back to working in a studio because like I think the thing before was I didn't really have like a personal life. Like all I did was this, whereas now it's like this. The job is supposed to support my life,
Yeah.
and um, yeah, and if like down the line I want to buy a house and have kids and stuff, then
Yeah.
I want to be able to like do that and not be restricted just because it's like I want to paint goblins kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, now that I know that opportunity is there, I feel like I can always go and do that again. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, I'd honestly give that as like a recommendation to anyone who is kind of like feeling trapped with freelance that like I don't know, I was so particular about what I wanted to do that I would have felt like terrible about the idea of working on some of the stuff I've worked on. But it was like I'm so glad I did because just in terms of improving my life, it's been so good and such a nice break as well from what I was doing that I think I know a lot of artists who are like don't wanna I don't know, compromise. They're like, I would rather work in like a store or something than
Yeah.
work for a studio doing work I don't like. But to me, it's always been that if I'm painting, it's a plus.
Yeah.
And like, you get better, even if you're
Unavoidably.
doing stuff you don't like that much. Yeah,
Yeah.
you improve, you learn stuff, you meet people who are doing similar stuff. So to me, it's always like the only way I've earned money my whole life is doing drawing. Uh, which is like probably I'm lacking some real life experience in terms of like I should have done some other stuff, but yeah, I don't know. Like I said, to me, if I'm drawing, it's I'm pretty happy, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's really, I think, like that what marks the difference because
Mm,
yeah, I mean, talking a little bit back to it, like when younger people come at you and or come at me or Danielle and just like they're so fascinated with, an idea of making it out or like whether you're giving a wrong impression or a false impression about like your own state of professionalism or in your career, where it's just like they see you around, it's like, oh, this painting had like 700 likes or whatever that means. It's just
mm,
like, oh, he's definitely making it. Or even guys that I know of that are even in high paying companies, and you think like, oh, he definitely is making like six figures. It's like,
mm,
no, they're not,
mm.
and
Yeah,
they're just doing it because, and they're putting all that detail in those paintings because they love
mm,
it so much.
yeah,
They're definitely, it's kind of like they're committing to something. They're trading a
yeah,
lot,
yeah,
and many of them will just
yeah,
like maybe laugh at your face, going like, "Oh, you want to have a house and kids? Get out of here!"
mm.
But
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, the I can't remember where I saw it, but it's like at some point you have to choose like what it is you want from what you're doing. Like, there's something like it's about the money, if it's about the freedom, or if it's about fame. Uh, and you have to basically choose one of those as your priority. Like, and honestly, for me, it was, but quite a while, it was money. Like, I don't care what I do, I just want to make money now. Um, because like you said, I mean, there's artists who are really big online who aren't really making any money, and
yeah,
there's artists who work in studios that you've never even heard of, you've never seen their work, but they're incredible and like they just earn really good and enjoy like a pretty nice life as well. And then there's people who will decide like I don't enjoy that. I'll work at an indie studio or something, working on something that's really close to me, and I don't mind that I earn less because this is my priority. So I think it's um it is good at some point to sit down with yourself and ask what it is that you really want out of what it is you're doing, because
yeah,
I think the sooner you realize that, the easier it gets to make choices
yeah.
about how you do stuff.
And topple down certain references too. Like for example, if you've been
Mm,
admiring Michael Comark or any kind of like
mm,
big shot guy for a very long time, it's like
mm.
don't mind him. Like he's doing his own life. He's doing it.
Yeah.
He's having his own experiences. He's going through his own
Mm,
stuff. You know,
yeah.
uh, you're doing you. Like you are under
Mm,
other conditions. Maybe you're living like I don't know in Brazil, Bolivia, and you
yeah.
can make it happen that way. But maybe also you're living in California, in LA, in some of the
Yeah.
most expensive places in the world, and the rates are not varying that much either.
Yeah.
So you gotta kind of play it smart and
Mm,
consciously that hey, at the end of the day, if you're if you're sleeping like 4 hours a day and working at, I don't know, McDonald's half of the time, something's gonna break,
Mm-hmm.
in the
Yeah,
engine.
yeah, you have to be, I don't know, yeah, you have to put your mental health first, basically.
Yeah.
And the thing is as well, is like, you really have no idea, how much artists you admire are actually making from artwork and not from some other stuff. Uh, Basically, I know a lot of people who like have a very high earning partner who actually pays for most of the stuff, or even just like, I don't know, they invested in like really good stocks or something. Like, there's so much stuff that you don't know
Yeah.
about, that it's,
It's giving them an actual life.
yeah, exactly. Um, so yeah, it's very much just important to focus on your own situation and, yeah, what's good for you. And yeah, also like with your artwork specifically, like comparing yourself to yourself before rather than to other people. That's something I struggled with like a lot for a long time.
Yeah.
Like felt like every few months there was like a different artist who was like the person I basically just wanted to be. Like honestly to the point of being like it's so unfair that I'm me and they get to be there. Like so
Yeah,
so
yeah.
bad like thought, but I know a lot of artists think that way when you see someone and you're like how like it must be incredible to be able to draw like them. And then but the funny thing as well is you just your interest moves on and you just forget about them.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So they obviously it wasn't that great.
Yeah.
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 It's like
Yeah, that's
she
the thing these days as well with like social media and stuff. Like one day someone could be super hot and everyone's
Mm.
looking
yeah.
at them, and then next week, like or a few months later or however long, they're just forgotten and
Mm.
everyone's moved on.
Yeah, and honestly, that's one of the reasons why I personally stood away from social media for a short while too as well. Like cuz I realized if you're really not making a business out of it, why the hell are you grinding it so much,
Mhm.
Cuz
Yeah.
filling yourself with
Yeah, and
anxiety and just like realizing that you're not good enough constantly, it's not going to get you anywhere, you know. That's why
yeah, and when
in
you
my
realize you
case,
can't
what
buy
I
anything with
realized,
likes as well.
yeah, no, there's no way. Ooh, I got like 2,000 reshares on Twitter. Yeah, so.
Like now what? Yeah.
Yeah, one thing that I didn't ask actually that I've always wanted to know,
Mhm.
back in the conceptart.org days, like when I'd see your sketchbook and I'd scroll through, it always seemed like you were at a very constant sort of level of determination, I suppose. But do you feel like there were days where you lose steam, or like at some point did you feel like, yeah,
Yeah, I
Are you
mean,
human?
yeah, I am a
are
human being.
you-
But I mean, like, yeah, I mean, there would like, there'd be bad days, and then there would also be like bad like periods, as like months of feeling like this isn't going very good, or I don't know. Was a book called Mastery by I think it's no, I don't remember who it's by. So I won't say. But it me and my brother were really because he was a musician, so we were just got really into like the idea of practice. So this book is just about practice, and um, there was this thing in there about how when you're learning in the beginning, you get those like beginner gains because everything you do, it's the first time you've done it, and so everything you do is like the best thing you've ever done. And then all of a sudden you hit these plateaus where you don't improve for a time, and you wonder like what the hell happened? I was getting so good before, and now I hate everything I do. And why am I not getting better? And then you have like another improvement spurt, and then you get on a slightly longer plateau, and that is pretty much the process of learning anything. And I mean, now for me, those plateaus last like years. So, um, and I mean, what always happens before you have that improvement spurt is that you start looking at your stuff and you're like, how did I think any of this was good? Um, and that's when in your head you've already gotten better. Um, and then you need to make the artwork that matches what you actually now see as being bad and being good.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, like, so I kind of knew like that it's not always gonna feel great. But yeah, I mean, obviously like I had, like I said, kind of this nasty voice in my head that was like, just shut up and work, like, and so I would just force myself to sit there and sort of push through, which is, I mean, I don't know, I'm kind of on the fence of whether or not that's a good idea. Like, it definitely wasn't healthy the way I was doing it,
Mm.
but it also worked, so I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know
it's
Yeah.
if you guys
odd.
have seen that movie, Whiplash.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. I mean, I still don't know where I stand on that. It's like you can sacrifice your mental health to do something great, but is it worth it?
Yeah, I
I don't know.
will always mention that there's few people that I encountered in my career where it's just like, I mean, most of the people are in that way of negative thought, you know,
Mm,
with their career, and that is kind of
mm,
like, I'm not enough. I'm grinding every day. I'm not uh, satisfied with myself, and I am constantly stressed about something that I'm not right now.
mm,
And then very few times you're going to encounter a couple of people that are just like
mm.
walking through the water like Jesus and saying like you should love everything, and they do
Yeah.
amazing, and you go like,
Mm,
how the hell?
mm.
It's just you are you.
Yeah. Mm.
And that I
But
feel it's something so much more difficult to attain because it has something to do with just being present and focused an entire time, and almost as kind of
yeah.
like you just some people are just like either born different with a different like brain chemistry, I think, but I don't know, like I felt like that's when I start like veering off from that negative thought path, when I started to stumble upon those people and realize, oh, you can actually love your work and what you do and not, you know, suck
Yeah.
at what you
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. I mean, to be totally honest, it's like like I really like my work now. I rarely feel bad about it. And the
That's so
only
awesome.
thing that helped with that for me was therapy. Like,
Yeah.
because it wasn't a problem with my art, it was a problem with myself. Like,
Yeah.
that I didn't think I was like worth anything. But it's like, and as soon as I went through that experience, I would talk to other artists and I'd realize it's like, I don't know what it is with being an artist specifically, but it's like people have the lowest self-esteem.
I
Like
know.
you'd be like, I like this painting you did. And then they just immediately start like listing everything that's wrong with it and they hate about it.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Kind of
yeah, I
almost want
guess
to
it is
slap
pretty
him.
bad. Thanks for talking me out of that. Like, it's like, I don't know what I was thinking. It
Yeah.
actually sucks. Like, but it's, I mean, that's just the thing that's weird to me is like, I know they enjoy it, otherwise they wouldn't want to do it.
Yeah.
Um, but they don't realize what it is that they actually like about their work. Maybe that comes with time, but I think like the method I have of like I wasn't even focused on making specific pieces that were good. I just wanted to see improvement in myself in each piece. So in a way, it wasn't even about the art I was making, and I think that's what was so wrong that like you should really try and put as much care and thought into what you're making, because that's what makes it good. Um,
Yeah.
like capturing what you gets you really inspired or what you really love about like whether it's other people's art or I don't know, like you go to a museum and you get like really inspired by something there, just something you see in everyday life. Like trying to capture that stuff and really pour as much like attention into what you're doing as possible, to me is what makes a really special painting. And I think that is like worth so much more than
Yeah.
just like I got slightly better at painting from this
Yeah.
painting and now I'm gonna move on.
And the idea that you got that down makes you truly a professional, I think. like
Well,
at the end. Because
I don't know
no,
about
for real. Because
that.
I mean, how
Yeah.
many people you're gonna find that are just like trying to apply to? I mean, myself back in the day,
Mm,
I was that person. You know, trying to apply to
mm,
Magic the Gathering for like period of 5 years and going like,
mm.
I need a dragon in my portfolio.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
I
exactly.
need
And you
landscapes. I
think
need
there's some
mechs.
like, yeah,
What are you
there's
talking
some
about?
like
Yeah.
quick trick or something that you're missing that, and like I think one of you said before, like, that this idea that like in the future you're gonna be someone who's like worth something because you're gonna finally make it and you're gonna be it's all gonna pay off and then you'll be good and then you won't like hate yourself anymore or something. And like spoiler alert, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Like you just keep beating yourself up over and over, and like the only way like fixing that happens outside of drawing, I think.
Yeah. The whole question for me is like, can you get started without that though? Because like at
Yeah.
first, I feel like that's the whole like carrot on a stick that's dangling
Mm.
in front of
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
and you're like chasing it and you never
Yeah.
reach it. And it feels
I
like a
don't,
lot of people go through that, and at
Mm,
some point they realize that it's not healthy anymore, and they've reached a
mm.
point where it's
yeah.
not good for them anymore, and they
Yeah.
need therapy or whatever else, but need to get out of that mindset.
Yeah, I mean that's why I say it's like hard to say whether or not like it's fair for me to say like so don't do that when it's
Yeah.
like it has
Yeah.
gotten me where I am today so far. But I mean I remember like I was messaging I don't know how you say his name, but Alexandra Zadig. I mean his work is incredible. I remember like messaging him or something, and I did like so many studies. Like all I did was try and draw from like photos and then apply what I learned to what I was doing. And I was so convinced that was like how you learn to draw. So then I talked to him and he said, oh, I never really bothered doing that. I just draw what I like. And I was
Really?
just like, that caused me like a breakdown. I was like, so I've spent like years doing this thing. I mean, I didn't really enjoy doing studies that much, but I thought you had to. And then it was like this guy who's just like, such a strong sense of style and because he realized that you're just going to pick the skills up along the way
Yeah.
while you're making stuff you find fun because you're just going to be like what do I need in order to make this cool idea I have and then you just learn a little bit as you go rather than that being the main point of why you're doing it and that was just
Right.
like holy shit like you can just you can just have a good time while you do this.
You can be happy and shit.
Yeah, it's like yeah. I mean, that was um because yeah, like I said, I had such like an analytical approach of like yeah, that you don't get better unless you constantly doing these studies. And I think as well like that this idea I really like is you only need to be as good as the current piece you're making, and by that I mean that it's like instead of being able to draw any pose ever because you practice drawing figures every single day, you can have an idea for a painting and then you can shoot some reference. You can do some small studies of like, oh, I don't know, I'm just gonna draw this foot from this
Mm,
photo and then oh, this is how this cloth will look. I can just do some sketches of that based on like what I've observed. And then you just put all that together of like how do I get the lighting to look good in this piece?
yeah.
I'll maybe take some more reference. I'll maybe do a quick color study or something. It's like, but ultimately, you have as much time as you need to make whatever you're working on right now as good as it can be. And like, you can just learn what you need to make the thing you're doing
Yeah.
rather than needing to be this like complete package who can make anything like this. Like,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah. And
For
that's
for a
such a relief as an artist.
for a little while, that happened to me when I think in 2015 I
Mm,
decided to take a smart school class. I realized that, or I came back to the realization because I already studied industrial design for like 5 years
mm,
that you can create a project out of the image as well as if it
mm,
was kind of like any other project, and you
mm,
kind of go from the ground out patiently and just taking in consideration, not like this speed painting technique, 30-minute
Mm.
kit bash
Yeah.
of whatever that people go like, ooh, ah, but that kind of like
Mm.
fizzles out, and just instead, just take your time and
Mm.
just give it the love that it requires, and you're gonna get that
Mm.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that was a
absolutely.
huge thing back in the day when people were looking at the guys from Massive Black, and it just seemed like they were just opening their sketchbooks and then making the most amazing thing just out of nowhere. And I think these days the same happens with Kim Jong Gi and stuff like that, people
Yeah.
like that. And people are under the impression that you've just got to have this massive visual library and you know everything and you can just make a painting like
Yeah,
out of nothing.
and you
Yeah.
realize short
And
enough that those are exceptions.
yeah, exactly. And also like I don't know if it's still a thing, but in conceptart.org, people would like post something like a really great picture and they would always say like how long it took and it'd always be like this took me like 3 hours and it would be
Yeah.
like oh,
Yeah.
what like and
Like,
it's like
God.
again like that's something only other artists will care about like if you showed it to regular people and be like this took me 3 hours they'd be like
So,
okay like why are you doing
Yeah.
uh but there was like such a thing and like I still can be but like can get in like such a rush when you're working to finish, and especially with social media as well, if you're like
oh yeah.
you like get this thing of like I finish a piece and then I post it, and there is no gap in between to like
Mm.
consider or not whether you like this piece, and then you're like, did it do well or not? And it's you can like rush to that validation so much,
Mm.
but I think I mean I've spent like a year working on and off on like a painting once. And I mean, I wouldn't recommend that either because it was very indecisive,
Have
but
to
like it
say.
was definitely like completely the other approach of like I almost wanted to see like how long you could spend on something. Um because that was the thing with the atelier that I really realized was if you sit in front of something long enough, it's gonna look pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a
Oh,
similar
right.
piece
I
too, where
remember
it's
that.
just like it's been also like a full year, just like going in and out and
Yeah.
just try not to finish it like purposely.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
it was the biggest pain by the end
Yeah.
because I realized I feel like this is almost looks like any other piece that I've done in less than a week.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, it's but I mean, I mean, maybe for me at least, I was still glad I did this because it um, learned something,
Yeah.
or I learned a lot from it. But it's also completely unfeasible to spend that much time on something.
No.
So it's definitely a balance to draw. But I mean, like, uh, I don't know. I was talking to Miles today actually, and like I've been working, trying to make a new illustration like every single week to like feed the social media machine
Yeah.
because you have to post so
The
regularly or whatever
algorithm.
and it's just but I mean talking to him about it today is like when something goes viral it can like be the same as like
Yeah, it almost
5 years work of like
has no
oh
sense.
incrementally getting likes on stuff that's okay but when something goes big it's like the response is so huge that I mean his thing was like the more thought you put into something, the more likely it is to go viral because it's going to connect with people. People will see like there's actually like meaning and depth in this,
Hmm.
whereas I think there's a trend to make very shallow work and make lots of it. Yeah, that would just like I was like, yeah, I need to slow down again and start really thinking about like what do I want my work to be? And also just I don't know, I've had like the realization recently, like there's a finite number of paintings you're gonna make in your lifetime, which is kind of
Yeah.
weird to think about.
Yeah.
But
They're gonna
so
be the
like
paintings.
just yeah, but just smashing out like as many as you can and not really thinking about it is like kind of a waste when you think of it like that. Like if you only get the chance to make so many things, and I think if that number was like if it was like, okay, you get to make 5 paintings in your lifetime, you'd be like, okay, I'm gonna really think about that. Like, this is what I want to say as a human being while
Yeah.
I'm on this planet. Like, I need to make sure this gets all of it. Uh, but like when I mean, you're probably making like thousands of pictures in your life. You're just like, I don't care, just like get
Yeah.
it out there, get some likes. But I mean, you should have that same reverence or whatever of like you should be trying to make like your best work, I guess.
I think that was the thing with the old masters as well. Like
Mm,
probably just because there was no social media and stuff like that,
mm,
they put a lot more thought into everything. And
mm,
now the stuff you see, like you only see a small portion of work. Well, by some of them. I mean,
mm,
at least the ones you remember. I know Sargent has like hundreds of paintings that people
yeah.
know about, but
Mm,
still, like at least the most famous ones or the stuff that people, if you just talk to a normal non-painter that
mm,
happens to know Sargent, he
yeah.
probably could name like maybe three paintings of his or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
It's like a
I
musician
went to like
too,
a
like
yeah,
song number
it's true.
2 and 3.
Yeah, pretty much. But I mean, like I guess in that analogy, it's like if you want to be a pop hit or
Hmm.
like an album, classic album that people love to like put the whole thing on, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's I mean that's again like a choice that it's good to sit down and make. Like there's nothing wrong with either of those, but for me anyway, it's like I think I enjoy digging deep and trying to make something that feels really thought through. Um,
Do
but
you
yeah,
have?
actually, you mentioned Sargent. Like, I went to like one of like an exhibition of his work a few years ago, and there was like paintings from I guess it must have been World War One. But he like went to France and like painted people in like infirmaries, like
I didn't
like
know that.
at yeah, and
Wow.
like I'd never seen these before, and like
Jeez.
something about that I thought was like some of the most interesting stuff there, because the rest was like these society pieces. Like he basically got paid. Uh, his bread and butter was painting rich people,
Yeah.
so they could hang it in their halls. I don't know where they hung it,
Yeah.
but like in their mansion, and it was like very much a status thing. But then I mean, maybe he got paid to do that, but it seemed very much like that really struck me because it felt like they were very intimate of like yeah, some of these guys probably died like there like
Yeah. It's
it just
definitely
felt way
something that he
more
wanted to do.
historic and like striking, and it's like interesting that that's what I remembered rather than like, oh, the painting technique on that rich guy's mustache was like so good. I mean, I
Yeah.
love that stuff too, but it's
Yeah.
like that was like really like, okay, so this guy like was sat in this infirmary uh on like a war zone painting these people who probably like either thought they were gonna die or like their life was over and stuff. That just
Yeah.
struck me as like historic and also just really interesting. I don't know. And I think that again, like what you paint is always going to be what people remember more than how you did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And even for you as an artist, like even for you, it struck
Mm.
you that sort of aspect. So what does that
Yeah,
say for regular people that aren't looking at
yeah,
the
exactly. Yeah,
technical
I
side
mean,
at
like,
all?
I think most people who aren't that into art would probably breeze past a lot of his
Yeah.
paintings because they're just people who stood there,
Right.
to be honest. And yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that book I recommended before, Making Comics, he like kind of grouped stuff in an interesting way where it's like I don't remember exactly, but it was like you can be like your drawings can be capturing like the beauty of real life like moments. Um I think maybe it was telling like a story or something, and then there's also just people who want to just completely recreate what art even is, like very experimental, like how like Picasso or something, like how little do I need to show for someone to understand what it is I'm trying to make. I don't remember exactly, but it was very interesting, and I think I mean I was so basically just set on like the better you can paint, better a painting is.
Yeah.
But I really encourage people, if you're in that mindset, to like explore and see what else is out there, because I think it'll only make your art better.
Yeah, I agree. How about we
I
finish on
think
that high
that's
note?
yeah, I was gonna
Yep.
say the
Sorry,
same.
you were gonna say something.
Nailed it.
No, yeah, yeah. Um,
Um,
so it's been great, Sam. Thanks so
yep.
much. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful conversation
Any
with a
social?
beautiful person, great
Yep.
artist.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to me ramble myself hoarse. uh,
No, it
Sorry
was
for
yes.
great.
keeping you.
Honestly, I've always wanted to talk to you, and I think, yeah, your experience is quite particular. I think, like, I don't know. I feel like I learned a lot from this conversation, and I wanted to thank you that.
Oh, yeah. No, thank you both for letting me talk.
Do you have any
Awesome.
social media or places where people can find your work?
Yes. I guess my Twitter is Sam Carr Art, and Instagram Sam Carr with a little underscore after it. Those are probably honestly the best places to find what I'm doing.
Nice.
Yep.
And
Awesome.
if you're coming out with a game and you want Sam to do the whole thing, you know,
Yeah.
he's right there. Reach
Give me a
out.
Just the
big
guy.
ass impossible project to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, yeah.
awesome.